Today to update you on the bilateral labor agreement between the government of the Republic of Uganda and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia that was signed yesterday, Wednesday 29th March 2023. Yesterday, the new bilateral labor agreement revised became effective. And I want now to announce to Ugandans, to the companies that externalizes our workers abroad, especially those that have been having problems since December, because this bilateral labor agreement expired in December, but the provision of the 60-day transition allowed it to be in force up to January. And since January, we have not been sending domestic workers in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But beginning today, arising out of this bilateral labor agreement, we have now started clearing Ugandans traveling abroad as domestic workers to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We are grateful that we enjoy cordial working relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and our warm relations results into many Ugandans there. Currently, we have over 150,000 Ugandans working in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, remitting approximately 700 million annually out of the $1 billion US remitted from the entire Gulf Cooperation country, meaning that Saudi Arabia contributes to a very high percentage of the remittances from the Gulf countries. Since 2015, Ugandans have been traveling to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to work under our framework of the bilateral labor agreement. These are two. There's one on domestic workers as a bilateral agreement, and there is another bilateral agreement on general workers. So what we are addressing now is the specific agreement for domestic workers. The one for general workers is still ongoing. Consequently, the government of Uganda and that of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, from February 2022, when this particular bilateral labor agreement for domestic workers lapsed, we have been undertaking negotiation, and this negotiation was meant to address some of the key concerns that Ugandans have been highlighting. We note that the companies had been in unease because they were not able to externalize, but also we were making sure that the negotiation delivers the best to address some of the challenges. And now I want to highlight to you some of the key achievements that we have got in this negotiation that we feel will improve the working condition of our girls and domestic workers in Saudi Arabia. The successful areas that we have negotiated includes provisions that both parties are now obligated to establish a mechanism to deliberately resolve any emerging issues on the welfare and rights of domestic workers. So previously, it was we would find a mechanism of doing it, but it was not provided for. Now, under Article 2, subsection 2, we have put in place that provision. Therefore, it means Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will now put a mechanism, either a committee or a task force, that will liaise with the Ugandan counterpart, led by our PS and our director who is here, to ensure that if there is any emerging issue related to the rights of the domestic workers, they can quickly meet and that is framework and resolve it. We also agreed that both parties are to regulate and control recruitment costs. As you are aware, when the companies from Saudi Arabia wants a worker, domestic worker, they send some money to the companies here to support them in recruiting the domestic workers. So we now want that recruitment cost not to affect the girls. You are aware some of the girls probably have complained that they have been made to pay and so on. We now want these parties to regulate and control recruitment costs. This is provided under Article 3.6. We have also agreed that we are prohibiting deductions of the salary of the domestic workers in the Saudi Arabia. Many workers have been complaining that they sign a contract, say, to be paid 1 million, but then in the middle they deduct several other costs, including sometimes stating that if you have not worked, then deduction is undertaken in the salary of the domestic worker. We have now prohibited that. You don't need to deduct, and this is provided for under Article 3 subsection 7 and para 10 L of the standard employment contract. Maybe to note here to you that what we signed yesterday was the bilateral labor agreement, but we also provided for a new standard employment contract. So we now have a standard contract. Nobody can come with their own contract. We have agreed on all the terms and conditions under a document called standard employment contract. And each of the domestic workers leaving Uganda must have that contract, which is already agreed between Uganda, because that contract provides for all the mechanism of protecting their rights when they're in Saudi Arabia. We have also agreed that both parties are to ensure that workers have recourse to competent authorities in case of contractual dispute. This is under Article 3.8 of the bilateral labor agreement. So if there is any problem in Saudi with a domestic worker about the contract, then a competent authority in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia will be there to support the domestic worker to go to that competent authority to resolve that contractual disagreement. That both parties are to take legal measures against employers and recruitment agency for any violation of laws, rules and regulations in either country under Article 3 subsection 9. So if an employer or a recruitment company violates any law related to this recruitment rights and obligation, then either in Uganda or in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the country will take action on behalf of the domestic worker, because many times, sometimes it's those companies and the employer subjugate these girls to several other immense concerns. These concerns now Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has agreed that in case such a matter occurs, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia as a government will come to address the concerns.
First, I would like to say that renewal must be with the consent of the worker. Now, what the new bilateral agreement provides is that the employee must notify the Ugandan recruitment agency, the Saudi recruitment agency, of their desire to renew. In the past, they would do it without informing these companies, yet would continue to hold the Ugandan company accountable. Further, they would have to seek approval for renewal from the embassy 90 days from the date of expiry of their contract. And this will be done on different platforms. The key one will be on the External Employment Management Information System, They could do it by phone, they could do it by email. And on the question of possession of funds, it's very clear in the standard employment contract that they must retain their documents and means of communication, including phones. And I would like to say that 99% have these phones, and that's why you get these audios every day. I don't know how they would do it if they didn't have phones. Repatriation, it is the responsibility of the employer in Saudi Arabia to repatriate, and this has been done whenever the unfortunate incident has occurred.
So we are satisfied with the labor dispute settlement mechanism that we have established under this bilateral labor agreement which we signed yesterday, and I want to take this opportunity to advise the potential migrant workers that are traveling abroad for work to now ensure that please travel through a licensed agency, because when you do this, the ministry and the Ugandan embassy in Riyadh will be able to support you in all this mechanism, because if you travel outside the licensed company, will not be able to protect you the way this labor agreement, because this labor agreement supports those who travel through official means, not those who are trafficked or those who travel illegally. We will then be able to maintain a record of migrant workers that are placed abroad through our licensed company, and it will make it quite easy for us and the embassy to trace and offer consular services as and when required. I also call upon our licensed recruitment companies to operate in an ethical way and in accordance with the law, and to ensure that they don't exploit these girls who travel abroad, especially on cost of recruitment, because we have agreed severally that the cost of recruitment is borne for domestic workers, is borne by the companies that want to recruit.